well, delighted to say joining us now to have a little word on what's to expect this week in the Champions League. It is the three-time Premier League champion, former England star Joe Cole. Joe, good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning, Natalie. Good morning, Andy.
Hello,
how you doing?
Joe. How are you, pal?
I'm very well. Just done the school run.
Very good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Priorities. We like that.
Priorities.
And you must also be, if you don't mind, just to touch on it briefly, you must be buzzing for Chelsea in the sense of getting that victory, which was much needed for them last night.
Yeah, it was much improved, weren't it? I mean, I went to the last two home games and you know, there was a little bit of the crowd were a little bit getting a bit of a wobble because I said this with Pochettino. I think he's such a good manager, such a great reputation, and he ticked all the boxes when they brought him in. You know, he's built clubs up from the bottom before. He's worked with young players, everything he's done. But I always had the fear if Chelsea have a wobble at the start, the punters will always associate him with Spurs, and I felt a little bit that. So he really needed that win last night. And then when Raheem weren't in the starting lineup, you know, I think he's such a big player for the club. I mean, I know he's not quite at his very, very best because his levels have been so high. But I think having him, his experience around it, someone who's been a winner and knows what it's about. And I saw the three youngsters in the front line, and I was a little bit concerned, but I thought they'd done brilliant. All of them. Cole Palmer's been been fantastic, and I was so pleased for Armando Broja, you know, coming back and bobbling one in, and Mudryk as well, you know. So it was a good night all round and much needed.
Absolutely. Tonight, Joe, looking forward to watching United Galatasaray. United are under serious pressure. They are. They need to produce. Why are they so up and down, Joe? Why do you think? Do
you know what, Andy? I've given this. I don't know.
It's hard, isn't it? It's hard to put your finger on anything.
Yeah. The only thing I think of is it's unbalanced. I think they've got a lot of players very similar. They've got a lot of players altogether. You know, they've spent a lot of money, and that's another thing. You know, with the club, you know, there's a lot going on at the club with the ownership, and that filters into the players and impatience. And then you've obviously got the off-pitch situations that Erik Ten Hag has had to deal with. He must have thought, this is gonna be a real tough job coming in here, but no one could have prepared him for everything he's experienced going in there. I think he's done everything right, and I also think the owners have done everything right. They've spent money on players. They've backed the manager when he's felt he needed to, you know, like the Ronaldo situation. You know, we've seen clubs where the owners have sort of sided with the star player in situations like that. So the club should be in a better position. But I don't. It's so inconsistent. You wouldn't fancy betting on Manchester United in any game of football at the moment because you don't know what team's going to turn up.
Is it unfair, Joe, to question their bottle as a group?
I think it's unfair to question certain players, because they've proven it. Your Casemiro's of this world, you've Martinez, you know, Varane, Mason Mount, players that have won trophies and understand, you know, what to do. They've done it. But I think as a group, as a collective, I just think there's something wrong with that group of players that the manager has not been able to figure out yet. And that's always the same with inconsistent teams.
This game against Galatasaray is one of 4 in a row they've had at Old Trafford. Obviously, they beat Crystal Palace in the League Cup, but then they lost most recently to Crystal Palace again in the Premier League at the weekend. So it's Galatasaray tonight. Then they've got Brentford at home before the international break. You know, two wins over the course of this week will be a great boost for them. But 2 defeats, that's only going to further the discontent around the club, and the pressure will continue to pile on Erik Ten Hag. Yeah,
I actually think tonight's an easier game for them than the Brentford game at the weekend. I think sometimes when you're going into these runner games and you come into the Champions League, sometimes these group stages games, when you're a big club like Manchester United, you don't have to motivate the players. The players coming from all over the world, they'll turn up tonight, I'm pretty sure, and they'll it's the Champions League. The music will play, and it's all of them. But Brentford at home's a tough game. It is in a Premier League. You got to get back to the grind, and they make it difficult for you. So, but again, they're just so inconsistent.
Yeah.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.